Chicago.
Duh, Bears.
How about them Bears?
It's Sue.
And Megan, the Spine Breakers.
And today we are doing our May wrap-up.
We are. And while we do our May wrap-up, we're going to be drinking some Charlatan American Pale Ale.
This is Maplewood.
Yes, which is in Chicago.
Cheers. I like that. It's quite refreshing.
It
after
is.
This long, hot day that
we look a little rough because we were garage sailing it today, so we're both quite sweaty.
And sticky.
Yeah.
So I finished 5 books this month, 2 audio and 3 physical.
I finished 0 books this month. I had a fucking crazy May. Like, I was traveling a lot and a lot of shit going on, so I didn't finish anything. I did read, though, so I'll talk a little bit about what I was reading in May.
So the first book that I finished was an audiobook, and it was Troublemaker, Surviving Hollywood and Scientology by Leah Remini. And this is her memoir about when she left the Church of Scientology and why. And she is an actor, probably best known for her role on King of Queens, which is actually a show that I really enjoyed.
I've never watched it.
I liked it. I thought it was funny. It kind of was like, and she kind of talks about that a little in the book, is that it didn't really, even though it was a long-running show and obviously people really liked it, it didn't get a lot of like critical acclaim. I think because it was kind of a blue-collar show.
Oh yeah,
so it didn't like get as much respect, but I liked it. I thought it was funny. I don't know. But anyway, this book is mostly about, Scientology and her experience with it, and she was brought into the church as a child, then left it when she was probably in her, I think, early 30s or something, I'm not sure. But it was really interesting because I didn't know a lot about Scientology beforehand, so I learned a lot about like the inner workings of it and kind of understood more like how people get sucked into it. Mm-hmm. And another thing I found interesting, though, was that she almost seemed to have more a problem with the way according to her, the Church of Scientology has kind of become corrupt, and it's become like the Church of Tom Cruise, more so than like actually having a problem with the religion itself. I mean, she did have like some problems with Scientology, just as it is, but her main issues seemed to be more that they would do whatever was best for Tom Cruise and not what L. Ron Hubbard actually said should be done. Huh. So that was interesting too, but I enjoyed it. I believe I gave it 4 stars.
I have still been working on the Chrysalids by John Wyndham. I was in like a really weird reading place this month where like I had finished, after I finished the last book I read, like nothing sounded good. Like anything I thought about reading, I was like, Then I was so busy that I was tired all the time, so I was like, fuck it. So I just didn't really read much, but I am almost done with the Chrysalids. I'll probably finish it today. And I do really like it, but like I said, it's just that I have not been real reading motivated.
I was in like a weird, this past like the end of the month, I haven't read much because I just haven't been in the mood. I've been watching Netflix a lot. The next book that I finished was Firestarter by Stephen King, and I am proud that I finished this book because it is the oldest book that I owned, I think.
Nice.
The one I've owned the longest anyway. And this is only the second Stephen King book that I've ever read, but I actually enjoyed this.
Nice.
For the most part. So this is about a little girl named Charlie who has pyrokinetic powers, meaning she can set fires with her mind, and her father are on the lam. They're being chased down by this secret government group called the Shop, who wants to study them. Yeah, I really liked it. It kind of has been surprising to me that Stephen King is actually, his writing is somewhat dense, which I didn't really expect because he's so popular that I thought it would be more like brain candy. I liked it. I gave it 3.5 stars. One thing I did notice, because I read this and then a short story in the next book I'm going to talk about was Grandma by Stephen King was included in that collection. And in both that and this, and I don't remember, I read Misery at least a year ago at this point probably, and I don't remember whether that one did or not, but these two had a lot of fat shaming in them. Oh. So that was kind of like not my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's kind of garbage.
But overall, I did enjoy this, so 3.5 stars.
I'm about halfway through Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I got this in a Book of the Month box. I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid and really loved it. And then I had heard really good things about this book, so I wanted to read it. And so far I like it a lot. Like I said, I'm about halfway through it, so I'm getting there.
The next book I finished was another audiobook, and it was called Hiding My Candy by the Lady Chablis, and it was read by her as well. I didn't mention the one by Leah Remini was also read by the author, which that's one thing in some of the reviews I saw some people said they didn't like the writing style of Leah Remini's book. But I feel like it's probably written in the way that she speaks, so it didn't bother me at all in the audiobook, so I would maybe recommend the audiobook based on those other reviews.
That makes sense.
And same with this one, Hiding My Candy, because the Lady Chablis, she writes it in her, the way she would speak. So I would probably recommend the audio because there were some negative reviews of people who had read the physical book. But the Lady Chablis is, she became famous from the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Barrett, because she was someone that he wrote about in that book. And I think maybe she was also in the movie, playing herself. I could be wrong about that. I haven't seen the movie, but I believe she played herself in the movie. So this was her short little memoir. It's I think the audiobook was maybe like less than 2 hours long, I think.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, that's short.
It was very short. But it was really entertaining. She's a trans woman. I would have loved to have seen her perform back in the day, because she was a drag performer as well. The one negative thing about it, she said some problematic things, a few problematic things throughout, I would say, that, maybe at the time those things were okay to say, but now it was kind of like, eh. But the very end, the way she ends the book was because she basically says that she's still gonna go to heaven because she still has all the parts that God gave her.
Oh, that's weird.
So she's implying that if she had gotten surgery, she wouldn't have gone to heaven, which is obviously not
right.
Not really
not really cool.
A cool thing to say. So that was, I didn't like that ending, but other than that I really enjoyed it, and I gave it I think 4 stars, maybe 3.5, and I think 4. I don't remember for sure. Then the next book that I finished, finally, was Tales of Witchcraft. And this is a collection of short stories edited by Richard Dalby. And I started this October last year, and I just now finished it. Yeah, and as you would imagine, all the stories involve witchcraft. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. I will say, the beginning especially had some very old stories from, the 1800s and early 1900s, and I didn't tend to enjoy those as much, just because I think the writing style was a lot different, the language used was a lot different, and they also weren't as scary, I guess, maybe. Not that I thought any of them were particularly scary. I don't get frightened easily by books, but yeah, I did enjoy it as a whole, and gave it 3.5 stars.
3.5.
And then finally, I finished The Whispering Muse by Sjón. I don't know how to pronounce that. And this was translated from the Icelandic by Victoria Cribb. And this was a weird little book about this guy, he's an elderly gentleman, and he's on this Danish merchant ship, and on one of the second crewman is the mythical hero Caenius. I don't know how to say it.
Sounds good to me.
He was one of the crew members of the Argo who went on the quest to retrieve the golden fleece. So he's like telling his tales of his adventures on the Argo. And it was a strange little book. I didn't quite understand the point of it. I don't think. So I gave it 3 stars. Like, it was alright.
It was alright.
I don't know.
It's okay.
It was kind of interesting because I don't really know the tale of the Golden Fleece very well or anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know much about it.
But at one point he's telling about how he was a woman. Like he was born a woman, and then he was like basically raped by Poseidon. And then Poseidon granted her at the time one like wish, and she wished to be a man. So Poseidon turned her into a man so she would never have to experience that again.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. Which was fucked up, but I was like,
Interesting
story. But anyway, yeah, it was an okay book overall.
So I'm hoping to have a better June than I did May.
We had a very busy May.
Yeah, I did have a very busy May. I don't want to do that again for a very long time.
I don't blame you. So let us know if you've read any of the books we talked about, what you thought of them.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I dig this pale ale.
This is a good pale ale. It's nice and crisp and refreshing. It's fucking hot today, so
yeah,
it's quite tasty.
The Charlatan pale ale. You alright, Smurf? I think he just smacked his head on the table. So that's gonna be it for us.
And we will see you next time.